So, how's it going, YouTube? Beautiful day. I think it's about -3 or -4 out. And just 2-3 days ago, we were sitting at -25 by supper time, and -27 or -28 by bedtime, and -35, -38 wind chill, and there's almost no wind. And, virtually no wind. You can tell by the tarp on the portable here. It's hardly even moving. And if you look, here's a prairie sky for you. And I'm not just aiming it at something blue. I am moving the camera. And that's looking north. It's looking east. You can see the blue through the neighbor's trees there. It's blue. I'll go back this way so I don't aim at the sun. And that's looking out west and almost to the sun. So I did 270 degrees and not a single cloud, not one. Not even a contrail up there. Haven't been in the garage for a few days. Just fumbling around, not getting much done. Well, last Thursday, Kyle and I went and scrap lumber, plywood. That's 3/8. There's some 1/2 inch. There's some 3/4. This is off stringers. It's all from my secret stash. Got a couple pallets that we threw on top to secure the wood in instead of tarping. Worked perfect. So I'm going to knock them apart and cut them up. Anyway, I got a bit of a project to do over the next few days. It's a 5-speed out of a 280Z Datsun. Won't shift out of 4th gear, so easy fix. Most of the time when these things stop shifting, it's because the roll pins on the, and she's locked up in 4th gear. Yeah, the roll pins that hold the shift forks on the shift rods will shear off, but there's enough friction that they'll just slide a bit. So sometimes it'll shift, sometimes it won't, and sometimes it gets stuck in there and it won't come loose, and just by sheer luck, by fucking around with it, you get it back lined up close enough, it'll shift again, and you think things are fine. But the guy that owns the car, he's not sure it's the roll pins. He's thinking it might be servos, but or synchros, I mean, which it could be too. It's hard to say, but I've had transmissions like this that locked up, and every time it was roll pins that sheared off. And we got the release bearing is good, but this car is going to be put together for, they're going to use it in an ice race in March in the studded class, and it's kind of going to be a little bit of a race because they don't have studded cars this year, so it's kind of like an open event. They're going to let studded cars run, which will help the guys with the rubber tires, rubberized as they're called, because they need the ice chewed up, and they need the ice crystals from the chewed up studded cars. Let's see if I can get good balance here so I can sit. And so I'm gonna likely tear it down today. And because I broke them in the past, I always had roll pins here for those transmissions. So should only be, take longer to tear it apart than it will to change the roll pins. I'll check everything else too. Anyway, I'll check all the bearings in the case and make sure everything is good, because they're also going to run this car in a jump car race in July. You might be more familiar with the term that race 24 Hours of Lemons, where they run basically a beater car for an enduro. Well, there's a whole series of them, I guess, and they've run them in Calgary, but the Calgary track is closed as of last year. And they had a chump car race, as it's called, and they're hoping to have another one. So they're going to move it apparently to Gimli, about an hour north of Winnipeg, where there's the road course for the Winnipeg Sports Car Club up there, and they run kind of a big. It's an old military air base. One runway remained active for the Gimli Airport, and the longer runway is it's actually been used for many years, 30-35 years. It's been used as a drag strip, and the road course has been there for at least 40 years. And they had an off-road dirt track for dirt bikes off in one corner, and where the runoff area is for the dragsters. Odd weekends they would run go-karts out there, and also the road course would also be used by the motorcycle racers. So it's a pretty neat facility, and it's about a mile, 1.4 mile lap. Back in the early 80s anyway, almost 30 years I guess, there was an Air Canada jet that ran out of fuel in Ontario, northern Ontario, and glided and made a landing in Gimli. The pilot was just amazing, was able to get the plane, with the glide ratio it had, he was able to make it all the way to Gimli, because they couldn't quite make it to Winnipeg. And because where they were flying, they were in northern Ontario, and more in line with Gimli than Winnipeg, and they were just running out of altitude a bit too much, and there was, the only other runway they could have landed on would have been likely too short. It's a small runway, or small airport, St. Andrews, Manitoba. That's mostly small fixed-wing aircraft. But when the plane landed in Gimli, it's been nicknamed the Gimli Glider, and you could actually Google that, and it'll show you pictures of when it ran. And the day it landed, they were running. The Winnipeg Sports Car Club was racing up there, and so it was all the racers and pit crews that responded to this plane crash, or controlled landing, I guess. The nose gear collapsed, and there was sparks and a little bit of fire in the nose, but nothing too major. The plane actually flew out a couple days later back to Winnipeg to get fixed, but it was actually the Winnipeg Sports Car Club people that responded to the plane when it went down. And I was at a friend's cottage, which is about 6 or 7 miles south of Gimli, and we were actually out playing frisbee in the yard at the cottage when this plane came in, and we both, it was close enough you could tell it was an Air Canada jet. And we didn't think much of it at the time because, you know, how sound on aircraft are, you know, it doesn't hit you right away, or, you know, so we watched this plane go by to one side of us. But we thought about it afterwards, we never heard a sound. And about the time we were thinking about that, my friend's mom came out and said, you know, there was an Air Canada jet that crashed up at Gimli. And that was the plane. We saw it on approach. It was kind of interesting. You know, I don't think I'll be able to drive this car. My legs just aren't going to do it. The Chump Car race up that they're going to have here, it's 2 days. It's 7-hour enduros each day. 4 drivers minimum, and we're going to run a 240Z with it's actually a 2-liter engine, because the last year this car ice race, the 6-cylinder engines weren't allowed anymore. They were only running 4 cylinders, so rather than build a whole car, they just put a 4-cylinder engine in this 280Z. So, you know, heavy car, small engine, but if we can get it reliable, you know, I might. I'm planning on going up to manage the team. You know, team manager, crew chief, whatever you want to call it. And 2 friends of mine are going to be 2 of the drivers, and they're guys I ice raced against, Tim and Scott. They're both also in that Datsun club I have. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm going to get a fire started here and get the transmission heated up to drain the oil, and cut up some of the pallets for firewood, and see if I can get a little bit more done on the car. I haven't got the metal from AJ yet. He was just here yesterday, and they've been swamped at work. So I've told him, don't worry about it. You know, that's low priority. You know, it sets me back. But if he can't, you know, I told him if he wants to cut the metal for me, which will be great to cut it, have it cut on the plasma cutter, because it'll be really nice. But he pays so much a pound for whatever metal he gets from work, so he can take off cuts and use them. And so he has about, I don't know, 9 or 10 different parts that I've laid out templates and given him the templates to cut for me. So hopefully he can get them done. He's thinking he might be able to get them done tonight or tomorrow night, because they're getting caught up. They found a new guy to run the plasma cutter, so AJ only has to run 1 machine, so he's not working 6 days a week, and he's averaging, I don't know, 15 to 20 hours overtime every week. And, you know, it's a physical job working with steel. So you work, you know, an extra couple hours a day, it wears you down a little bit. And he's looking a little ragged. I just tell him to suck it up, because, you know, when I was his age and I was racing, I would work shift work. I was working days and evenings, and then I'd be working on cars in the backyard to make money so I could go racing. And then in the winter, I was chasing them to hockey, working shifts, and maintaining a race car. And then on my spare time, I would go racing on the weekends. It's hard work, but, you know, it's what you do. Been there, done that. Anyway, I'm going to blab on, and I see we're getting up over 15 minutes, and this was just going to be a 5-minute update. So catch you later, and have a good one.